I'm very happy to have with us today two gentlemen from CrowdSec. To my left, we have Justin Young, who is the Director of Client Relations, and Kevin KADOSH, who is a DevSecOps, and they're going to give us, my understanding, a rundown of their platform. So, gentlemen, by all means, all yours.
Thank you, everybody. My apologies, first off. We were supposed to have more lights and fireworks going on, but we unfortunately couldn't make that happen. Isn't that right, Charles? Alrighty, so I would like to thank everybody. It's a good turnout. Thank you. Great for a mandatory cybersecurity awareness meeting. I do appreciate that. But what is CrowdSec? CrowdSec is a cybersecurity company that focuses on developing open source, community-driven cyber solutions to help protect the globe. The primary goal is to provide a collaborative and network effect-driven approach to cybersecurity where users and experts can work together to help mitigate incidents all across the globe simultaneously. Now, these days no one wants to fight an army alone, and I believe that's the approach that we've been trying to take for the past few years. Complicated problems like the theory of relativity can be solved by one person. That's okay. But collaborative issues like sending people to the moon, it takes a bunch of people in order to do that. So imagine if your top security providers pooled all their data to help you maximize your firewall. This is essentially what we do. Now, our platform is proactive. We defend real workloads, and we take connections and logs from the servers that you actually take connections from as well. Being a crowdsourced option, locally sourced, just doesn't have the amount of data to help create an airtight system like we would all prefer. Now, as you can see from the sequences here, we try to acquire or we read the logs wherever they are in your system, and through that we try to detect the bad behaviors. By counting and comparing the signal elements and analytics of these logs, identifying bad behaviors, we notice the bad behaviors, and then we share them. Now, the detection portion and going over to the remediation portion component of this entire system, decisions to enforce, it basically takes your CDN, your firewall, the enforcement points of your actual system, and engages those at that particular time. My apologies, lost my place there. This process is fully automated, and then once we do notice enough bad behaviors, the whole community is attacked, we then share those so that the global block list and the global community is protected at all times. Now, moving right along here, ultimately CrowdSec is like a big IPS mixer. If you think about it like a giant car show, everybody likes something different. You like McLaren, they like Bugatti, I like Honda, okay? So which one of these has the features that you need to be able to successfully do your job every day? Someone that lives in a rural area might need the feature of a sturdy suspension in order to commute daily. Others that live in tight areas and big cities might need 360-degree view cameras and proximity sensors to help them out. So this is where we bring the added value. If your infrastructure is facing multiple threats, it could be facing different kinds of threats as well. And what would a good car show be without modifications and features? So we can add extra features to your already functional platform to ensure a perfectly curated process every single time for your security playbook. Our threat intelligence is relevant if you would like something listed out or labeled out over a broad spectrum. Now, saying that we can add extra features, our threat intelligence is actually very, 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 very intuitive as well. The fact that secures everyone simultaneously is that global network effect that we try to foster, as I mentioned before. We allow you to protect what you think is relevant. DDoSing, brute forcing, scraping, bot scanning, all the ings we try to cover. Now, we are easy to use, we are easy to implement, and we leave a very, very small footprint in your environment. Now, first, we are crowdsourced, and being that is more of a benefit, it is our mission to be crowdsourced. Being stronger together and integrating with the community gives us an advantage to all other benefits of people working together to mitigate security incidents. Now, we are open source. Now, closed source is usually less audited than open source components, leading to a potential for private exploits. Now, if in your use case you are looking for certain adaptations, it makes it easier in a reality for open source. It makes it very, very simple because open source grows at light speed because of the amount of eyes that it has on it. Now, we are versatile. Now, in the CI/CD approach that we trust, if a fire and forget manner is what you're looking at, we can accommodate that as well. It will maintain your security posture without you thinking or acting on it. CrowdSec was designed by a team composed of red teamers, former red teamers, along with DevSecOps, who are all worked in the MSSP environment. So this product is made to be integrated, it's made to be operational 24/7, and it's made to reduce your admin burden, and I think we all can kind of appreciate that a little bit. Now, we are behavioral based as well. The signature tends to be one step behind. Hashes vary. Binary analysis can have a hard time with obfuscation, obviously, but a behavior should leave a trail in your logs. And that creates an actionable behavior that we're able to do. So, as an example, bot scalping on an e-commerce website won't trigger any EDR, but the behavior most likely will. Now, we are actionable. The main difference between a real-time zero false positive crowdsourced curated block list and a CTI feed is that the former is a form of casualty counting. It can be operationalized directly in your firewall at lightning fast speeds. But information that allows you to know and an actionable block list that allows you to remedy is the key component here. So, our proactive defense mechanism. Instead of merely reacting to threats or throwing up a flag when there's one, CrowdSec solution empowers your security posture to be proactive, preemptively, blocking threats before they can impact your systems in a devastating manner. Now, our real-time threat intelligence benefit from immediate and real-time shared intelligence threats detected across the globe, ensuring that a consistent level of protection is maintained with thousands of eyes on one set of IPs listed out at any one time. So, how do we deal with IPs at scale? We collect the strict minimum of information, which is the name of the attack, the time of the attack, and the IP that's listed out, just those three components. Now, we do keep these. We are a French-based company, so GDPR compliance comes standard out of the box with us. If we can keep this at least amount of time, which is 3 months that we do keep this information, and then it is dropped out of our list. And your logs are never exported. We don't care about the information in the basket. We just care about the basket that carries the malicious behaviors. So, ultimately, we utilize 250 plus behaviors that allow us to action on 6.5 million aggressions per day. Now, I want to let that sink in for just a moment. 6.5 million aggressions per day, and we were able to act on those, 100% of those, with 0 false positives. And if anyone has gotten anything from the presentation that I've given today, please come by our booth. Hold our feet to the fire. We want the questions. We love the questions. So, now I will encourage anyone as well, because we are fighting an infinite tool with an infinite number of digital IDs. And we want to fight where we know we can win. We want to create a global environment that makes bad actors very, very uncomfortable to be in, or just kick them out altogether. And multiple people protecting multiple people is usually the best bet, rather than one lone sword holder trying to take down an entire army. But we are the collaborative crowdsourced solution to your cybersecurity issues. We are CrowdSec. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hand it off to my technical advisor, KADOSH, for a technical presentation.
Thank you, Justin. And hello, everybody. So before jumping into a demo, I will introduce you a bit the CrowdSec ecosystem, and then I will do the demo for you. So first, in the CrowdSec ecosystem, we have what we call the security engine that is in charge of detecting the malicious behavior. So for this, it will read your logs. So it can be from a basic log file to a S3 bucket. It can expose a syslog server. So we support many different data sources. Then those logs are parsed by the CrowdSec parsers. They are then normalized and enriched. And those parsers, you can find them in the CrowdSec hub. Then later, they are converted to the CrowdSec scenarios that allows you to detect specific behavior. So for our case, it will be mainly malicious behavior, but basically you can detect whatever you want with CrowdSec. So once a scenario has been triggered, the engine will send an alert to what we call the local API. So this one is the heart of this ecosystem, so we will see later why. So once you receive an alert, it will generate what we call a decision. So it can be block this IP address for 2 hours, for example. Then we have a small command line tools that allows you to manage the engine and the local API. So if you wonder, both run under the same service, and if you want to disable one or the other, you can just do it by editing the configuration. Then we have what we call the remediation component. So those ones are in charge of blocking IP addresses. So before we saw the engine that detects malicious behavior, and now we have the component that will block the IP address beyond this malicious behavior. So we support maybe more than 20 remediation components, and the goal is to allow our users to be able to block an IP address at any level of your infrastructure. It can be at your firewall level, so for example, IP table, NF table, even the Windows firewall, to higher level, such as your web server, or even higher level to your application directly, such as Magento or WordPress, for example. We also have some for CDN, like Cloudflare or Fastly, for example. So yes, we support a lot of remediation components. So how do they work? Since the engine exposes a local API, they can interact with the local API frequently. So for example, every 10 seconds, they will get the list of the new IP address that it should block into the application. Then we have the alerting part. So again, whenever the local API receives an alert, it will try to send an alert. It can be for notification purpose only, so on your Slack, on your team, or on your Teams, sorry. Or it can be because you want to store the alert in another tool. It can be on Splunk, on Elasticsearch, but we can send an alert to whatever as an HTTP API to receive data. And last but not least, we have the central API. So this API belongs to CrowdSec and is in charge of receiving the alert that the local API receives. So this is how we will make our community block list. And in return, we will give back to our community the community block list. So it's a list of IP addresses that we know that they are malicious and that have been reported by all the community. So maybe you wonder how we can make such a block list without any false positive and distribute it to our community. And this is what I will explain you in the next slide. It's how our curation platform works. So first, it starts when a security engine sends us a signal, so an alert. We will store it as a raw data, so only for 3 months for GDPR reason. Then we will enrich the IP of the attack, so it can be the geolocalization, the port open on the machine, if the IP has already been into the block list, and so on. So then we have what we call the crowd pressure. So basically, when a new user enters the network, it will have a score of 0. So we will not trust it at the beginning. But then by pushing signal, while we can verify that the IPs are really malicious, his score will increase until he becomes a trusted peer. And so this is the goal of this phase, is that before going further into the process, we want to be sure that enough trusted peers reported this IP. So if it's the case, we will go to the safety check phase. So basically, it's just a list of known companies that we know they will never attack you. It can be Google, it can be Microsoft updates IPs, it can be the Cloudflare IPs, and so on. And so if the IP address is in this list, it means either that the service that the user tries to protect are misconfigured, or that someone is trying to poison us. And in both cases, the score of the user will decrease because we cannot trust him. So if the IP is not in this list, then we will go to the next phase, which is the cohort attribution. So at the beginning of this curation platform, we had an expert system. So we made some rule that validate if an IP address should go into the block list. But since some months now, we were able to train a machine learning model based on the result of this expert system. So now we can make them both work together to validate an IP address into the block list. So the next phase is the IP address goes into the block list. So this block list is redistributed to all the network that participate, that share signal with us. And if you are a customer of CrowdSec, you can retrieve it also through our CTI API. And one last thing about this community block list is that we know that an IP address is malicious today, but tomorrow the owner of the IP can change, or the servers behind this IP can be clean. So that's why we only keep an IP address only for 7 days into this block list before removing it. If we see this IP during the 7 days, then we prolongate the state in the block list. So now it's time for the demo. So I will do a quick run through the CrowdSec installation and how to have a working environment. So first, sorry for those who are not really familiar with command line, because it will be on Linux. So to start, I have two servers, one which is the Defender, where I will install CrowdSec, and another one is just for the attack. So on the Defender server, I have Nginx web server installed and an SSH server, and I want to protect both of them. So first, I will install CrowdSec. So to install CrowdSec, you just can follow the documentation. CrowdSec is available on many platforms, on Linux, FreeBSD, OpenSense, Windows, Kubernetes, and so on. So for the demo, I will use the Linux one. I just need to install the CrowdSec repository, but I already did it, and then I just have to install the CrowdSec package. So this is just the CrowdSec installation, and the installer will know that I have a Nginx running and that I have a SSH server running, so it will automatically monitor the logs files of those two services. So now CrowdSec is installed. It can read the logs from the two services, and it also installed the parsers and the scenario that will protect my Nginx and my SSH services. So now I should be able to detect attacks based on my Nginx or SSH service, but just before, I will show you the CrowdSec console. So this is the single pane of view, the single pane of glass view for your CrowdSec engine, where you can see all the activity that they have. So I just have to copy a command line. I will have to accept my machine onto the console. And then I just have to restart CrowdSec. So now, when I will do some attack on the attacker server, I will be able to see all the alerts in the console directly. So to test that everything is working well, I will use a web application scanner called Nikto that is noisy and that will be detected by CrowdSec. So here we can see in the CrowdSec logs that it detected many attacks from this scanner, and that he has pushed the alert to the central API, so I can see the alert into the console, but they will be processed by our creation platform also. So here, as I told you, the local API generated a decision, so block this IP address for 4 hours. And maybe I will show you, but from the attacker server, I still have access to the web server because I only installed the engine and no remediation component. So now I will install the remediation component. So here is the list of all the remediation components that you support. So from AWS WAF to Cloudflare to your web server. But for the demo, I will take the firewall remediation component that will use basically IP table and IP set. So again, I will just install it onto my machine. So now I should be able to block the IP address that try to attack my server. But if I try again, I see that I can still have access to the web server, and this is because this is the first time I install it and I have received the community block list. So here I have all the alerts that have been triggered by the NICTO scan, but also I have received the community block list, so a list of IP addresses to block because the community reported them. So we can see that I received 30,000 IP addresses to block, so it might take some time to ingest them into the firewall. So maybe now it's done. And as you can see, I still don't have access anymore to the web server. So now we have a working CrowdSec environment. Everything works. We can detect attack. We can block attack also. So this is how it works. Now I will show you how it renders into the CrowdSec console. So this is the engine that I have unrolled previously and all the alerts that have been reported by my engine. So we can see all the scenario, the CrowdSec scenario that have been triggered, the IP address of the attack, and the target, which is my engine. We also have a cool feature that I can show you on this one, but I have another honeypot that is being targeted a lot. Up. So this feature is called the background noise score. So we know that some IP addresses are only background noise into the internet, and that they only scan for every IP address that they can just to scan them. And so we have a feature that is noise cancelling. So if you are a SOC, for example, you want to focus on the real alert and not on all this background noise. And so if you see now, I have like 400 pages of alert, but if I enable this feature, I only have 8,000 pages for all my alerts, so I can focus on those ones and not on all the others. This is the CrowdSec hub, so where we have all the scenarios and the parser. So the CrowdSec company did some parsers and some scenarios when we started, but now even the community can do it. And as we can see, a lot of community members added their own parsers and scenario into the hub. And then the last thing I wanted to show you is the CrowdSec threat intelligence. So we receive maybe around 20 million attacks per day. So we have a database of almost 70 million IP addresses. So we know a lot about IP addresses, and we can tell you what they do inside our network. So for example, I will take, I don't know, one randomly. So this one, you can see the IP address, we can see its range, its autonomous system, and for what is known into the CrowdSec network. So we can see that it's mostly doing SMB and RGP brute force. Here is it's the background noise score. So as I mentioned previously, this IP make a lot of noise in internet, but at the same time, the score of this IP is 5, so it means that this IP is really aggressive and malicious, and that you should block it. Because we can see even here that this IP belongs to the community block list, and that this IP is redistributed to everybody into the network. We can see the aggressivity of this IP. So since the 21st of September, this IP has been really aggressive. We can check for each day how aggressive it was, and we can see that it was a lot. Even yesterday, this IP was aggressive. And we can also see that this IP mainly target France and a bit Germany and USA. So that was the CrowdSec console. And that's it for the demo. If you want to go more deeper into the CrowdSec project, or if you have more questions, we are at the booth 409, so feel free to come and we'll be happy to answer those questions. Thank you for your time.